$25,000 in Iron Man statues behind me. 35 if you count Spider-Man. You want to hear the funny part? I don't even like Iron Man. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Xtreme channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, welcome to the Xtreme channel. My name is Mr. X. Today you are tuning in for what we call an Xtrumble. That is an extreme rumble. It's a statue comparison video. And we're looking at these two life-size statues from Queen Studios. That's right, if you spend $35,000 with Queen Studios, they give you a hat that it doesn't really make sense. You'll have to forgive me. My son is behind the camera and he just put a Mandalorian helmet on. It's hilarious. By the way, I did once put the Mandalorian helmet on here on one of my YouTube shorts. You can check that out. Also, if you want more information on all three of these statues, I have done detailed reviews on YouTube. You can go check them out. A while back when I first got this $12,000 Mark 7 statue, I did this video right here. So I've had this for a little over a year, I think, and I absolutely love it. It was kind of a game changer in my collection because I have hundreds of these high-end collectibles. So I followed it by getting the Spider-Man behind me, which we're not going to talk about today, but it is an awesome piece and you can definitely check out that video. But recently I got in the Mark 85. Really love it, and today we're going to find out, do I love it more than the Mark 7? Now, as a disclaimer, I said in the beginning, I don't really like Iron Man. I didn't like Iron Man in the comics growing up. I was a big comic guy, but Iron Man was not my guy. Robert Downey Jr., when he played Tony Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU, is what sold me on Iron Man, which these statues are based off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not the comic books. So on my left, we have the Mark 7. Now this is the final suit he wore for just a little bit in the Battle of New York at the end of the first Avengers movie. Then on my right is the Mark 85, the last suit he ever wore in the MCU. Of course, we all know he's coming back as Dr. Doom, which to me is just garbage, despite how much I like RDJ. But so to me, it's kind of cool. The first Avengers movie, we have his final suit, and the last Avengers movie, we have his final suit. Now, with that being said, these are not my favorite MCU Iron Man suits. My favorite is actually the Mark 6, the one he had right before this with the diamond arc reactor. And for the most of Avengers 1, he actually wore that. Now, Queen Studios, who made these statues, also made a version of that, but I just didn't like it for a number of reasons. Now, on top of that one and these two versions, they made a number of other ones. Some of them I have been interested in. The Mark II. However, the Mark II was so briefly used in the MCU in Iron Man 1, I just didn't think it was worth another $12,000. I hope they really make a Mark I, the one he used in the cave. I will 100% buy that, but I'm a little worried if they do, not only for the expenditure it'll be, but I'll have to kind of redo this display, and these bitches are extremely heavy. I mean, we're talking between 500 and 1,000 pounds each. But enough about that. Let's get into these two different statues and really talk about which one is better. Now, whenever we do these extreme rumbles, there's a number of categories we look at consistently, and then sometimes we add a new one based on the statue. So first of all, we always look at the base. Well, these bases are almost identical other than the nameplates on the front. So we're not going to look at that because one's clearly not better than the other. Now, we're also not going to look at the sculpt of these statues because while they are different suits, it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples if they're apples to oranges. However, I believe there's an exception with that statement, and that's when it comes to paint. So what's really interesting is, remember in Iron Man 1, he told Jarvis to throw some hot rod red on the first suit, the Mark III, which as a disclaimer, Queen Studios also makes one of those, which I think is a great looking suit. But if you look at the Mark 7, it is a very, very matte red. And when I first unboxed this, I was disappointed with that. It still looks amazing in person, the statue itself, but I think the paint is a huge miss. It's too much of a matte red. And look at this in comparison to the Mark 85. Now keep in mind, the Mark 85 isn't a technical suit. It's actually nanotechnology. So clearly there is a little bit of a difference, but the contrast between the glossiness and the shine of the red makes the Mark 85 way better in my opinion. Next thing I want to talk about is design. While they look very similar, they are not. So first of all, the Mark 85 is only 3 pieces: the base, the body, and the head. The Mark 7 is actually 9 pieces. You have the base, the body. You know, I take that back. It's about 14 pieces. Each of the arms came off, and then there's a number of plates on the arms that come off as well. And then the fins or the rockets on the back come off, and of course the head comes off as well. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it's actually a good thing, in my opinion. Because if you recall on the original video of this, I talked about what a bitch this was to carry because you couldn't carry it by the arms, and the arms would get in the way while you were trying to set this up. So I think it's a lot better with the Mark 7. So from a design and assembly standpoint, I give the points to the Mark 7. However, there is something crucial in design that the Mark 85 blows away the Mark 7. That's with the light-up feature. As you're looking at it, you're like, man, both have pretty cool light-up features. Yes, they do. They both have light-up features in the portrait, the arc reactor, of course, the base, and then throughout the body, on the hands, and then a few other key places. Now, one reason the Mark 85 is so much better is probably because Queen Studios got a little bit smarter. So when they first released this, the base lights up via plug-in. Everything else is batteries, whether those are like AA or AAA, or built-in lithium batteries. So for example, the arc reactor actually has to come out and you have to charge it. Now, one great thing about the arc reactor on the Mark 7 is it has a number of different modes. If you remember that original video, it would power up, it would rotate, lots of cool things, where the arc reactor on the 85 does nothing except light up as it is. But back to the disadvantages of the Mark 7. So because everything is lit up by different methods, that means you have to turn it on many different ways. So for example, to turn the portrait on, I have to remove the head and flip on the on switch. Same thing with the repulsors in the hands that aren't even lit up on this video because they're such a pain in the ass. I have to take things apart and then turn it on. The arc reactor is a remote, where with the Mark 85, you just hit the power button and everything lights up. Huge advantage. So we give the light up feature to the Mark 85. I almost feel like that's worth 2 points because it makes it so much better. Because most of the stuff I have in my basement for lighting is all connected to a remote system that I can turn on with my phone. It's a huge advantage for Spider-Man and Mark 85 to turn on with the click of a button, where him, I literally have to take 4 or 5 pieces apart, and it probably takes anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes just to get him lit up. Another thing I want to talk about is size. So you look at these, they have identical bases. However, the Mark 85 is significantly taller. Now, this doesn't make sense to me because the Mark 7 is an actual suit, so it should be bigger. It's something he had to physically get into, made of iron and other metals, where this was nanotechnology that was skin tight. So if you remember, the first time he used nanotech was at the beginning of Infinity War. And the nanobites essentially just covered his current body, where this is a suit he has to get in. So if you think about it, the Mark 85 should be a smaller statue. Now, it's taller. It's not as bulky, so that does follow the flow of logic, but it should never, ever be taller, and it's taller by about 2 inches. I highly doubt Robert Downey Jr. grew more than 2 inches, because again, it would have to be more than that, which now that I'm talking about, how did the nanobites get underneath his boots or his shoes? Interesting. That's going to keep me up tonight. So from a scaling perspective, I think the points go to the Mark 7. I think it's more accurately scaled. Even though it's completely different technology, logically, that makes sense. Price, very close. So this one was released a few years later, and it was about 10% more in price, which makes sense. They did make 30 more of these. They made 129 compared to the 99 of these. So I think from a pricing and a value perspective, they're equal. Not a ton of collectors are going to buy these anyway, let alone have 2, or some collectors out there have all of them. So value, it's really a tie in my opinion. Pose, I want to talk about the pose. So one of the reasons I bought both of these, not only are they some of my favorite suits, albeit not my favorite, like I said, the Mark 6 is my favorite, but I didn't buy that one because of stupid pose. It's like a running walkway, like a model, where these are both very stoic, museum-style, tough poses. And they both look great with one exception. The Mark 85, his head is turned to the right. If you remember the review I did on that, it really bothers me. In fact, I have the base turned this way so he's not looking too far that way. If the nameplate was facing the front like it is on these, he would be turned about this far. That looks really dumb to me with the lineup, especially since they did Spidey facing forward as well. So I think the pose goes to the Mark 7. So those are the big differences that I can find on these. Now, I am naturally drawn to the Mark 85 for three primary reasons. Two we discussed. One is how easy and cool the light up feature is. Two is that shine on the red. And then three is the fact that it's new. I've had this for over a year. At the time I'm filming this, I've had this for a few weeks. On a side note, not that this matters too much, but the shine on the armor leaves fingerprints a lot worse than the matte over here. So there is a maintenance perspective that this is a little bit nicer. I really can't pick a favorite. I love them both. Well, I think the Mark 85 has a slight edge. To me, this is a cooler Iron Man. But here's the best part. You get to throw down in the comments below which one you like better. Not only do I love to read your comments, but you could win a statue with that comment. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you wanna make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. There's also a poll on YouTube to see which one you like better, and you can check out the results. But for now, if you like stuff like this, please sub to the channel. I really appreciate you guys. I was trying so hard not to burp. Please give me a like for that burp. It wasn't very manly, but do it.